Hey everyone, this is Vijay here, and I work with ASG Technologies as one of the product managers for Zenith. This is the second module of a three-part series. In the first part, my colleague Kaushik had given a quick overview of accelerating business transformation, its need in the new normal, and how ASG can help you going forward. It's a must-watch, so if you guys haven't already seen it, please do so. And today I'm going to be talking about the market drivers for Zenith and give a very quick demo of how to build a content-centric app in ASG-Studio, which is basically the unified design tool that's going to help you rocket through your digital transformation. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the market needs. There are 4 market needs that we are trying to target with Zenith. The first one being users are on mobile and other devices. So ever since the introduction of smartphones and tablets, the workforce is not bounded to a specific device. They are not restricted by any physical boundaries either. Scenarios such as employees using a desktop, a tablet, a smartphone to access the exact same application is becoming quite common these days. In that case, it is important to have an omni-channel delivery mechanism like the one Zenith does to cater to a range of devices. Secondly, data management and compliance. It becomes hard with multiple systems. As process gets more and more automated, data gets accumulated faster. Data, or in other words, content, be it structured or unstructured, is the new oil, and without a proper content repository service, enterprises are going to find it hard to manage these data and enforce any compliance on them. This can be tackled by our own enterprise-grade repository service called Mobius, which is part of ASG's own product portfolio that we provide out of the box for Zenith. The third issue is that of agility and flexibility. Business changes are getting faster, and to counter this, enterprises want their solutions to be rolled out faster. The traditional IT system is not designed to move this fast. However, with Zenith, you can design your digital initiatives in a model-driven approach that boosts your productivity and allows you to respond rapidly to any business changes. The last one is that of the lack of visibility. A CXO would generally like to see the relevant graphs and visualizations in a single portal, and this can be done with one of our business services called Presentation Services, which allows you to create rich-looking dashboards that shows whether you guys are properly aligned with your company strategies. All right, let's now take a look at the target enterprise. So in this slide, I have oversimplified an enterprise hierarchy. It reflects 2 different wings, the systems wings on the left and the operations wings on the right. The key for Zenith is to basically find the right balance between these 2 wings to ensure that the solutions are focused on the business need rather than getting distracted by the technical complexity. So any new digital transformation that comes in usually begins with the process owner, who's assumed to be the subject matter expert. He has a set of requirements that are going to be neatly communicated to the process designer, who then uses our process modeler to design business processes that weaves business components and rich forms. The rich forms are in turn designed by visual designers using a drag and drop approach using our UI modelers. The developer comes in where he can create reusable business components or web services that basically expose data and can be consumed by the process and visual designers. The end user is basically the most important persona, actively participates in a specific business process using a range of devices. Having said that, let's take a look at the typical enterprise use case pattern. In a nutshell, we target 6 steps for an enterprise use case pattern: capture, persist, process, notify, act, and analyze. To make it easier to map, let's take a look at a sample insurance application and how these 6 steps can be used in a particular application. All right, for example, there are going to be 2 roles, a customer and a manager role for an insurance claim application. The customer basically unfortunately got into an accident. He's going to go ahead and fill in a form. He's going to be taking pictures of the accident, and he's going to submit the claim, hoping that everything gets successfully submitted. Once this is done, the claim details are basically going to be stored somewhere. It's then going to be processed. It's going to trigger a workflow, and it's going to send an email or a notification to a manager who basically can receive it, view it, act on it, as well as analyze any reports that are generated out of it. So this is a typical enterprise use case pattern. And with that, I'm going to go into the demo to show you how this can be quickly done in our studio. All right, so this is basically the app that I'm going to create. It's the same insurance application that I've gone through earlier. You'll see that I have created a form where you can basically enter details and attach pictures of the accident. In the backend, the process gets triggered. The documents get stored in the file system. The liability examiner gets a notification. The notification can then be viewed in the inbox, and then the liability examiner can take a decision on it. And that basically sends a notification back to the initiator saying whether it's been approved or rejected. All right, so these are sample screens that you are most likely to come across, ranging from data source creation to process modeling, how easy it is to create fancy looking applications in our UI modelers, and the testing components of inbox and monitoring that we provide in Studio. All right, so with that, I will jump on to a demo. So I'm just switching slides to the ASG-Studio, which takes a project-based approach, much like any other designer environment. We are going to take a look at Acme Insurance application that I've created earlier. And you can see that on the left, it has a certain set of artifacts, out of which in today's session, I'm going to mainly focus on data sources, process models, and UI models. Let's take a look at the process models. This is where the process designer gets the set of requirements, and he's going to basically model his backend. You can see that in this case, I've done it pretty simple, a straightforward process where it gets triggered once it receives the claim. It inserts the claim details. It gets the supervisor details or the manager details. It notifies the manager, and according to his or her decision, it takes a respective path to conclusion. You can see that we have an element list on the top. All of these can be dragged and dropped into your canvas. It allows you to build your process in a really quick manner. It's also compliant, so we follow the BPMN standards, so it's compliant in those regards as well. Because of the model-driven approach, it gives you a flexibility. So, for example, if you would like to take a different approach on rejection, you can go ahead and just have it modeled. It allows you to, it gives you the edge in terms of flexibility. All right, so now let's take a look at the first task, which is basically the service task. It's inserting a claim details. So to take a look at this, let's take a look at data sources first. So I've created a car insurance data source in here. So there's two types of data source that we support. It can be either of a type of connecting to a pre-existing database, or it can connect to an external web service API. For this demo, I've made it simple. I've configured it to connect to a Postgres database, a table name called car insurance, and I've generated reusable business components out of this. In a typical code-driven approach, each server script or web service would take around a day to basically have them coded out. But with a model-driven approach, with our low-code Zenith Studio, you can basically have them generated within 30 seconds. So all you have to do is basically click on the Add Default Web Services. It's going to ask you to choose the tables as necessary. And once you have selected the desired tables, it's going to generate these web services out of the box. And the best thing about this are these are reusable components. So once you have created it once, you can have them used in your process model and UI models, which is exactly what I've done in my process model. I've configured it to, I've just selected the car insurance data source that I created earlier and the method that I would like to execute. And as part of the insert claim method, there's a certain set of attributes that it expects. And all of these can be passed as part of the process memory. So it's as simple as that. All you have to do is just create data source, write method in here, and you're good to go. The second task that I would like to highlight is basically the user task. Can be of two different types. The message only is going to shoot a notification and step to the next activity. The with action is basically going to wait till the recipient acts on it. So in this case, I've said that let's wait till the supervisor acts on it. And as part of the notification, I've said that I would like to see this form along with the references that's needed to build it. So once you have your user task configured, let's take a look at the UI model, which is basically going to trigger the whole process. I've named it as raise claim, and you can see that it opens up with a fancy looking home page, and then on the second page is where the chunk of the application is. So on the right, you can see that we have a controls list. We have about 50 odd elements that can be dragged and dropped into your designer canvas. We provide a certain set of styling options out of the box, so it's easy for any non-techies to go ahead and basically just choose the way you want it to look. For a more customized approach, we also have the external CSS where you can fit your company's logos and themes in a no-code manner. All of these are basically binded to specific references in the settings panel. So you can see that for the description, I've just binded it to something called accident description, which will later then be passed on to the process memory. So as part of the controls, we have a bunch of basic controls as well as complex controls like photo pickers and attachments. So in this process or in this application, you can see that I've dragged and dropped two specific photo controls. So this is basically where the customer takes pictures of the accident and uploads it for the liability examiner to view. So we also have the UI event script modeler, which is basically another plus point that we have in here. Instead of having the developers code onto it, you can basically do it in a no-code manner. So you can basically define what happens when on a specific event. So in this example, it's an on-click event. I've said that I just want to trigger the process called insurance flow, and these are the references that I want to push into the process memory. You can do a lot more than this. So you can basically call a bunch of web service tasks. You can use the function call if you want to manipulate any data. You can have it trigger a process task like I've done in here. You can also have it routed, or you can even throw a pop-up or an alert in here. So all of these can be done in a model-driven approach, which basically brings in a whole bunch of productivity enhancements to your enterprises. All right, so now Studio not only takes care of designing of your application, it also allows you to test your applications so that you basically can be guaranteed that it works fine in the testing environment before you deploy it into production environment. Earlier in the market needs, I have highlighted one of the main market needs that we try to achieve is basically an omni-channel delivery mechanism. And this can be shown in our UI modeler. So you can see that when I change the devices on the top right, you can see that the screens are responsive by default. So all you have to do is just basically build it once, and it's going to work seamlessly across multiple different devices. And the good point is all of this does not have any proprietary interpretation layer. All of these are going to be exposed as Angular applications at the end of the day. All right, now let's take a look at testing. So there are a variety of ways where you can basically test your applications. The process debugger allows you to set mock data and breakpoints and allows you to test for your accuracy of your process debugger. The more commonly used way is basically the preview. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click on preview, which is basically going to open up the form in a new tab. I'm going to start with a fancy looking home page. Once I click on let's go, it's going to route it to my next page. And in here, I'm just going to give a sample form. So this is basically live preview. So you can go ahead and give the details. All right, so I'm just going to give a sample description, and I'm going to choose a date that it had happened. So I'm just going to say it happened today. And I can go ahead and attach any two photos that I would like to show it as evidence. If it's done through the mobile, you can go ahead and capture it as well. Since I'm doing it through the laptop, I'm just going to choose it from my gallery. So I'm going to choose two specific car images in here. Right, and I'm going to click on submit, which is basically going to trigger the process. So you can see that the process has been triggered. And to basically have it tested, we have the inbox and the monitoring features. I'm going to open both of these in a new tab. And let's take a look at the monitoring feature that we in first. So this is basically a textual representation of all the instances that has ever been occurred. You can see that this specific instance was just triggered a few seconds ago. And it's basically on the waiting status. So it's waiting for the manager to make a decision. And on the right, you can see that the process memory gets populated as we go ahead. Now let's take a look at the manager. So the inbox for the manager. So you can see that this is a new form that's been generated. You can see that whatever details I gave as part of the erase claim has been shown in here. I can go ahead and view the details in a new tab. I can also have it downloaded. All right, and then as a manager, I'm going to take a decision. So obviously this doesn't look like a theft, right? It looks like some serious accident. So I'm just going to go ahead and outright reject it. Once I click on submit, it's basically going to resume the process. And you can see that in here, it's basically, resuming the process. It's in progress. And now it's completed. So it's reached a logical conclusion where it says that, where it ended with notifying the initiator. So if I just go back to the inbox, I'll be able to see a new notification. You can see that the new notification that I've just rejected it has popped up in my inbox. So Studio on the whole takes care of not only designing, it allows you to test your test your application just so that you're confident that it works fine in your production environment as well. So once you're done testing your application, all you have to do is just create an app package, which is nothing but a zip folder of all the necessary artifacts that's needed for your application. And you're going to deploy it into the presentation services, and your application is a few clicks away from going live. So that's how you quickly develop apps in our ASG-Studio, a unified integrated design desk. In today's call, I have basically given you a quick overview of the market needs that Zenith wishes to solve, along with a high-level demo of ASG-Studio, our integrated design desk, and how it can be used to quickly model any applications. I hope you guys can imagine the huge set of possibilities for such a product or platform, and you are as excited as I am to see it in the market. This is just the beginning. Please look out for more videos from my colleague Raghav, who will demonstrate actionable automation for the responsive business and also talk more about the new trend in the market, robotic process services.